Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Holland Land Office Museum's Artifact video series. My name is Ryan Duffy and I'm the director of the museum. And this week we're going to talk about one of our maybe most odd pieces that we have in here. Not for the item itself, but its connection here to Batavia, as it is an old piece of military history, but not from the United States, but actually from France. What we have is actually an officer's sword of a soldier in Napoleon's French army from the Napoleonic Wars. Now, you may be asking, why is a sword from France here in Batavia? Well, there is actually a local connection, as the soldiers' children actually ended up coming here to Batavia and becoming rather prominent citizens. So I'm going to go through and show you off the sword and tell you a little bit of its history, at least what we know, as it is somewhat limited, but also the family connection here in Batavia. So here we actually have the sword and its scabbard, which were owned and used by a George Rupprecht, who served in the French army under Napoleon from about 1806 till Napoleon's downfall after the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Now, from what we have been able to find, Mr. Rupprecht lived in the area of Athens, France, which is near the modern border with Germany. So he has a very German-sounding last name, but was actually French in that Alsace-Lorraine region, which was changed hands many times between French and German control. Now, from what we can decipher, Mr. Rupprecht served as one of Napoleon's bodyguards, so would have been one of his close units that kept eye maybe of the Imperial Guard. And he entered service at or around the Battle of Marengo in 1806 and served through the end of the Napoleonic Wars. Now, he retired from military service after that, and we know that he had two children, and the one child we are more concerned about is his son George, who was born in Athens around 1825. Now, George is our connection to Batavia, as in his 20s, George actually traveled to the United States and immigrated and became a United States citizen, and around the 1860s actually came here to Batavia. Now, George became a rather prominent citizen in terms of business, but also political leanings, as in 1875 he became mayor of the village of Batavia and actually served another term, though it wasn't continuous, and brought along his father's sword. Now, we're not sure when the soldier, George Rupprecht, passed away, as haven't been able to find too much on his personal life outside of his children. But the sword actually came into our possession from George Jr., his daughter Josephine, who donated it to the museum back in the early 20th century, and it's been with us ever since. And it's a very unique piece for us because out of all our military items, it's one of the few pieces that doesn't have an origin here in the United States. Now, the blade itself is a curved saber with a somewhat ornate hilt, but would be definitely a soldier's sword, and actually inscribed on the guard is Versailles, so we know that it did come from France and was made within the country. There seems to be some markings on it, so it probably was actually used in some form of conflict, if not open battle, as we're not sure on George Rupprecht's military record exactly what battles he served in, but we assume he saw combat somewhere along the line. And it's in a simple sling scabbard here, so this would be going around the chest and then held at the side for easy access. And it has been embossed here with the name after it was used, of course, and that gives us a little bit of history of it. So this is just an interesting piece that we'd like to know more about eventually, just because of its uniqueness to us. But it definitely shows a different side of military history than what we're normally used to, and but shows that people from around the world actually made it here to Batavia, especially our European ancestors, and actually those descendants became rather influential in our local area as well. Well, I hope you enjoyed this short edition of our artifact video series and learned a little bit more about a more unique item, our Napoleonic era sword, and its connection here to Batavia. But if you have missed any of our previous videos, please go check them out on our YouTube channel, Holland Land Office Museum, and check out our artifact video series playlist. As you can see, all 70-something videos there. And be sure to like and subscribe if you really do enjoy our materials, as it helps the channel get boosted a little bit more and get you notified ever sooner once we do post new things. As always, the best way to come and relive the history of Genesee County is to visit us here at the museum yourself, and we'll be sure to tell you even more stories of our artifacts, and you can see them up close and personal.